Hey guys, welcome to the Bianchi Law Talk on Facebook Live. I am standing in Columbus, Ohio at the State House. It's a beautiful building here. And I wanted to talk to you about a case that we're covering on the Law and Crime Network all week where I was hosting. And I actually have a link to a segment on a police officer's shooting case. A police officer's on trial for having killed a young man in an encounter. Now, this encounter is interesting. This person was breaking into a vehicle, this young person. He confronted somebody who tried to stop him from breaking into the vehicle with a pretty ominous looking lock blade knife where he swung at the person 2 times and then escaped and he fled. The police were called, and as they tried to approach the young man refused to listen to officer commands, was walking down the middle of the street. If you actually click this link, you'll see the dash cam video of the officers trying to stop him from going into a Dunkin' Donuts and a Burger King, which was just down the road. Again, he wasn't listening to the officer's commands. The police officer that's on trial for his life right now, charged with murder, gets out of the vehicle. And if you see on the dash cam video, a really interesting thing happens. This guy's not listening to the cops. The cops try to cut him off with their vehicle, and he actually smashes the window of the police vehicle with the knife and then punctures the tire of the police vehicle. So now this is escalating into a violent encounter. The officer gets out of the vehicle, and the young man spins around after putting his hand down by his waistband, and the officer shoots him 16 times. And that's essentially the reason why this cop is on trial, is the prosecutor's alleging that he didn't need to neutralize the threat, that's the language we would use, by shooting 16 times. You'll see the interview I do with R.J. Magone from the Law and Crime Network, who was actually in the courtroom. It's a hot case. There's a lot of tension between the community and the police officers with respect to this case. And, you know, I bring this out all the time. The cops have an affirmative obligation to neutralize threats and to make sure that people aren't a danger to the community. And I guess the open-ended question in this case could be, well, if the cops didn't do something and the guy ran into that Burger King or that Dunkin' Donuts and stabbed somebody, would they be on the hook for having been malfeasant for not taking him out earlier? And I'm really surprised the defense in this case has not yet, at least to my knowledge, argued that when he spun around and put his hand down by his waistband, it wasn't so much about the knife at that point in time, but he could have had a gun. He had already displayed violent actions to the officers. They didn't understand what it was that he was doing. He appeared to be violent, and they decided to neutralize the threat. Also keep in mind that officers are allowed to use lethal force differently than ordinary citizens because of that affirmative obligation to protect the community. And in Chicago, where this case is being tried, in Illinois, you're also allowed to use deadly force for an escaping felon who has a weapon, which this individual did, and a whole host of other reasons that justify police use of force. So the link is there. Check it out. You can see the video itself. These cases keep populating. I just want to say one public service announcement. I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for it. I do every single time I do these videos. And I'm not saying the cop's right or wrong here, but if you want to survive a police encounter, the way to do that is to obey lawful commands of police officers. It's not the place to argue, walk away, flee, to show violent actions. If you want to survive that encounter, it is always the best option to comply. And if you have an argument that they did something wrong, argue it in a court of law, not on the street. That is why these encounters are turning lethal. Again, I'm not blaming people. This guy apparently was on PCP. People are mentally ill. They're addicted. I get it. But, you know, all too often it's because of flight, resisting arrest, or violent encounters with the police that lethal force is actually used. So, hey, I'm interested in what you guys' opinions are. Take a look at that dash cam video in the interview I did with RJ. I think it's fascinating. Was the cop justified in using lethal force here, or should he be convicted of this serious charge of murder in this encounter with the man who was on PCP and acting violently? Hey, I always appreciate you guys watching. Becky, I see you out there, and Mark D'Annunzio, and Angela, thank you so much always for your support. Pete Carino, how you doing, Peter? Always great commentary. I always appreciate you guys sparking it up there on Facebook. So give me your opinion. Should the cop be convicted of this offense, or after you look at the video, did the young man put himself in jeopardy and the cop had no option other than to use lethal force? Hey, if you guys think this is informative, I'm out here in Columbus, Ohio. Feel free to share this with your family and your friends, and subscribe to my new YouTube channel at Robert Bianchi ESQ. It'd be greatly appreciated, as it is also for our Bianchi Law Group and all the support you guys give with the referrals and the clients. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week with another Bianchi Law Talk Live. Bye.